Emma Turner had always believed her home in suburban Ohio was the safest, calmest place in the world. A quiet neighborhood with tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors who waved from across their lawns, and the kind of slow-paced comfort that made life feel predictable. But predictability disappeared the day her son Noah was born, replaced by sleepless nights, endless diaper changes, and waves of emotions she couldn't always understand. Still, the house felt full, more alive than it ever had. And a big part of that warmth came from Cooper, their loyal golden retriever. Cooper had been with Emma and her husband, Tyler, long before Noah arrived. He, grown from a clumsy, oversized puppy into a gentle 6-year-old companion whose entire world revolved around his family. When Emma was pregnant, Cooper had sensed the changes before anyone else, following her around, sniffing her belly, curling beside her at night. But once Noah came home from the hospital, something inside Cooper shifted from affectionate curiosity to something deeper, something intense. Emma noticed it the very first night. Noah was barely 4 days old. The soft glow of the crib light filled the room as Noah slept soundly, wrapped in the blue blanket from her baby shower. Emma was exhausted, half asleep in the rocking chair, when she felt a warm pressure against her leg. She looked down and saw Cooper sitting beside her, staring up with those soft brown eyes. At first it made her smile. "Hey, buddy," she whispered, scratching his head. "Your little brother finally here." But Cooper didn't react like he used to, no excited panting, no tail thumps against the floor. He simply stared at Noah's crib, then stood, walked over, and gently rested his head on the lowest rail. His breathing was slow, deep, almost deliberate, like he was studying the baby. It was sweet, adorable even, but the longer Emma watched, the more she sensed something different, something strange. Cooper wasn't just curious, he was guarding. Over the next couple of days, the behavior intensified. Cooper stayed pressed against the crib every chance he got. If Noah was in Emma's arms, Cooper followed so closely that his fur skimmed her legs. When Tyler took the baby into the living room, Cooper trotted behind like a shadow, positioning his body in front of the couch, blocking the room's doorway. He seemed vigilant, protective, hyper-aware. But the real shift came on the 5th night. It was 2:14 a.m. when Emma woke to the sound of scratching, the frantic, clawing scrape of Cooper's paws raking against something. She sat up, her heart racing, and realized the noise was coming from Noah's bedroom. She jumped to her feet and ran down the hallway, barely flipping on the lights. Cooper stood outside the nursery door, his body rigid, ears pinned back, tail stiff. He scratched again, loud, urgent, then let out a low growl Emma had never heard before. It wasn't aggressive. It was warning. "Cooper, stop," she whispered sharply, terrified the noise would wake Noah. "What's wrong with you?" But Cooper pushed against the door, whining, packing in tiny, anxious circles. Emma's stomach tightened. Something was wrong. She turned the knob, and the moment the door cracked open, Cooper shoved his head through, squeezing past her before she could react. He ran straight to the crib, planting himself beside it like a soldier bracing for an attack. "Cooper," Emma hissed under her breath, grabbing his collar. "You're going to hurt him, move." But Cooper wouldn't budge. He leaned forward, nose almost touching Noah's blanket, breathing in sharply. His body trembled, not in fear of Emma's scolding, but in fear of something else, something unseen. Emma's breath hitched as she reached for the crib rail, peering inside. Noah was asleep, peaceful, completely still. Nothing looked unusual. But Cooper's behavior didn't change. He stayed in the same stiff posture, eyes fixed, chest rising rapidly like he sensed danger. Emma placed a hand on her racing heartbeat. "Cooper, what is it? What do you smell?" She didn't know why she asked it out loud. Maybe because Cooper had always surprised her during storms, when strangers came to the door, even when she'd been pregnant. He seemed to sense things people couldn't. But this was different. He wasn't anxious. He wasn't protective. He was scared. Emma stood there for a long moment, unsure what to do. Cooper's tail was tucked so far between his legs it nearly touched his stomach. He kept shifting, placing his body between the crib and the rest of the room, like he was shielding Noah from something approaching from the shadows. "Cooper, you're scaring me," she whispered. Her voice trembled. She hadn't meant for it to. The baby monitor on the dresser blinked softly in the darkness, casting a faint glow. Emma stared at it with unease. The room felt colder than it had earlier, as if the air itself had changed while they slept. Cooper suddenly lifted his head, ears snapping upward. Emma froze. He stared past her shoulder, toward the far corner of the room, the corner cloaked in deeper shadow, untouched by the nightlight. A growl rumbled from deep within Cooper's chest. Emma didn't turn around. She couldn't. Her pulse throbbed in her ears as Cooper's growl deepened, louder, more insistent. "Stop," she whispered, "there's nothing there." But she didn't believe her own words. She felt something she couldn't explain, an uneasiness crawling beneath her skin. Her breath turned shallow, her palms damp. She reached for the light switch, fumbling. But before she could flip it, Cooper barked. A single, sharp, explosive bark that shattered the silence. Emma cried out, stumbling backward as her heart lurched painfully. She spun around, eyes searching the darkness, breath trembling, half afraid of what she might see. But the corner was empty. Just shadows. Just stillness. Just quiet. Emma turned back slowly, pulse pounding. Cooper remained at the crib, rigid, alert, still guarding Noah like he believed something dangerous was lurking nearby. Emma inhaled shakily. For the first time since bringing Noah home, she didn't feel alone in the room. She didn't feel safe. And as Cooper let out another low, warning growl, so soft it was barely a vibration, Emma felt the first real chill of fear crawl down her spine. The next morning, Emma woke to a quiet house, the sun stretching thin ribbons of light across the living room floor. Cooper was nowhere to be seen. For a brief, comforting moment, she thought maybe last night had been a fluke. Perhaps she had imagined the intensity, the growl, the panic in his eyes. But then she heard the soft padding of paws on the hardwood. Cooper emerged from Noah's room, golden fur slightly ruffled, eyes alert and wary. He approached cautiously, but the moment Emma reached to pick up the baby, he moved in front, nudging her hands away with his cold, wet nose. His gaze was fixed on Noah, and the tension in his posture made her uneasy. Emma furrowed her brow. "Cooper, what's going on?" she whispered. She crouched, pressing a hand to his broad head. Cooper responded with a small whine, then backed away, circling the crib like a silent sentry. Every time Emma tried to pick Noah up, Cooper would bark softly, low and warning, stepping closer to the baby. Tyler had been in the kitchen sipping coffee, rubbing his eyes. He looked up as Emma called him over. "Honey, he's acting weird," she said, voice trembling. "He won't let me touch him. Look." She gestured toward the baby and Cooper, who now sat perfectly still, his eyes sharp and unblinking. Tyler chuckled lightly. "Come on, Em. Dogs love Bobbies. He's protective, that's all. You've had 2 nights of barely any sleep. Maybe you're overreacting." Emma felt a stab of frustration. "Tyler, this isn't normal. Look at him. He's different. Something's wrong." Tyler shrugged, unconvinced, but Emma couldn't shake the unease. The protective instinct in Cooper was evolving into something almost human, aware, precise, as if he could see beyond the ordinary. That afternoon, Emma attempted to carry Noah into the nursery for a nap. Cooper followed immediately, circling her, ears pinned back, tail stiff. He blocked her path repeatedly, placing his massive head in front of the baby as if to shield him from invisible forces. Emma tried reasoning with him. "It's okay, Cooper. Mommy's here. You're safe." But Cooper's response was sharp, a low growl and a paw strike that nearly knocked her over. She gasped. The dog's eyes weren't just alert, they were desperate, frantic, almost pleading. Something in her chest tightened. She had always trusted Cooper's instincts, especially when it came to sensing danger. But this was different. The days passed in a blur of panic and confusion. Every time Noah stirred, Cooper was at his side, pressing his body against the crib, licking his tiny hands repeatedly, whining in a voice only Emma seemed to understand. At night, she found herself watching him more than the baby, her unease growing with every restless motion. And then the first strange incident happened. It was late afternoon and Emma had set Noah in his bouncer while she prepared a bottle. Cooper was lying nearby, eyes trained on the baby. Suddenly, he sprang up with a bark that made Emma jump. She spun, expecting to see a stranger or a household hazard. Maybe the mailman had wandered in. But the hallway was empty. Cooper began packing rapidly, circling Noah, tail stiff, ears back, growling softly. He kept nudging Emma with his head, pushing her toward the baby. Emma felt a surge of panic. "Cooper, stop. What is it?" Then she noticed it. Noah's chest, normally rhythmic, seemed slightly off. His tiny ribcage quivered in an uneven pattern, subtle but unmistakable to a mother who had watched him day and night. Her heart thudded painfully. "Noah," she whispered, trembling. She lifted the baby to her chest, examining him carefully. His skin felt cool in patches, his breaths uneven. The hairs on her arms stood on end. Cooper pressed closer, his body tense, eyes wide and focused. Tyler entered, sensing her distress. "Emma, what's going on?" She could barely speak. "Something's wrong, look at him, his chest, his breathing." Tyler frowned, taking the baby gently. "He seems fine, just a little restless." Emma shook her head violently. "No, Tyler, you're not seeing it. Cooper, he's trying to tell us something. Something's wrong." Tyler's brow furrowed. "Tell us what? He's a dog, Em." But Emma couldn't shake the sensation of dread. Cooper's behavior had escalated from protectiveness to near panic. His growls were sharp and urgent now, his eyes following invisible patterns, alert to things that Emma and Tyler could not perceive. That night, when the house had fallen into a heavy quiet, Emma set Noah in his crib for bedtime. Cooper was immediately by his side, head resting on the rail, body pressed close. Emma sat beside him, holding his massive head in her hands, whispering reassurances. But he shivered in place, growling at nothing, ears twitching, tail stiff. Minutes later, Noah stirred, his tiny cries piercing the silent house. Emma leaned over to soothe him, but Cooper blocked her again, nudging her hands away, barking sharply. Something about the tone made Emma stop dead in her tracks. It was as if he was warning her not to touch the baby, to be careful, to pay attention. Her heart raced. She picked up the baby monitor, the small device glowing softly, displaying his movement, but nothing appeared unusual. Noah was calm, his cries softening as Emma hummed to him. Then, as if prompted by something unseen, Cooper sprang to his feet, ears raised, body tense. He backed toward the hallway, staring hard into the shadows. Emma followed his gaze but saw nothing. And that's when it happened. A sudden chill swept through the room, cold enough to make the hairs on Emma's arms stand. Cooper's growl deepened. He barked sharply once, twice, then retreated to Noah's side, pressing his body flat against him. Emma's pulse raced. "Cooper, what are you seeing?" she whispered. The golden retriever turned his gaze back to her for a fleeting second, eyes wide, almost human in intensity. Then he nudged Noah gently, resting his head on the baby's chest as if to anchor him, to keep him safe. Emma shivered. She didn't know if she was frightened of Cooper's intensity or what he was reacting to. Something in her motherly instincts told her he had seen, sensed, something life-threatening. Minutes later, she finally dared to glance at the monitor again, and for a fleeting moment her breath caught. Noah's chest, tiny, delicate, had shifted in a way she hadn't noticed before. A small, almost imperceptible tremor. Then it stopped and the baby's breathing returned to normal. Emma's hands shook as she set the monitor down. She knelt beside Cooper, pressing her forehead to his fur. "You've been trying to tell me," she whispered, "all this time." Cooper responded with a soft whine, resting his head on her shoulder. Emma felt a cold realization creep into her chest. Cooper wasn't just being a protective dog. He wasn't simply guarding a baby from ordinary harm. He was reacting to something far deeper, something invisible, something dangerous. And she had no idea what. That night Emma lay in bed, listening to the soft padding of Cooper moving between her room and the nursery. Every few minutes he let out a low, warning growl or a soft whine. Emma's heart pounded. Sleep was impossible. She stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment, every subtle behavior. She knew one thing with absolute certainty. Cooper was trying to save Noah. But from what? She didn't know. And as the wind rattled the windows outside, and Cooper's growl echoed softly through the darkened house, Emma realized she had no choice but to find out. Something was coming, and she had to discover it before it was too late. The next night was restless. Emma had barely slept, her mind spinning with unease. Cooper, as usual, had stationed himself beside Noah's crib, chest pressed to the baby's tiny blanket, ears constantly swiveling toward every creak and whisper of the house. Even Tyler, who had been skeptical until now, began to notice the unusual behavior. He's tense," Tyler muttered, half asleep on the couch. "I've never seen him like this." Emma nodded, eyes fixed on Cooper, who suddenly jerked upright, tail stiff, growling at the dark corner of the nursery again. The golden retriever's stare was almost unnatural, hyper-focused, almost intelligent, as if he could see something the human eye could not. Emma picked up the baby monitor, holding it close. The little digital screen blinked softly in the dim light. She adjusted the camera, watching Noah, who was swaddled and sound asleep. But her motherly instincts told her something was wrong. Her hands trembled. Cooper's growl deepened, a low, vibrating warning. Then, almost imperceptibly, the monitor flickered. The image stuttered, distorted by static that hissed through the tiny speakers. Emma squinted. Noah's chest, it seemed to move unevenly. One breath, then a slight pause, then another, a rhythm that was slightly off. She leaned closer, heart pounding. "Tyler, look," she whispered, jabbing a finger at the monitor. Tyler leaned over, yawning. "It's probably a glitch. These things are sensitive." Emma shook her head, her voice rising with panic. "No, look at his chest. Something's wrong. Cooper knows it." Cooper had gone completely rigid, ears forward, body trembling slightly. His eyes locked on the same shadowed corner of the room where he had been staring all week. His teeth were visible in a low snarl, though not directed at anyone, just focused, protective, almost desperate. Then, without warning, the monitor's temperature reading plummeted. 1 second it read 70 degrees F, normal and comfortable, then dropped in rapid succession to 59 degrees F. Emma's breath caught in her throat. "Tyler, that's not normal," she whispered. He finally looked concerned, reaching to steady the monitor. But before he could touch it, the screen flickered violently, and a faint shadow moved across the crib, crossing Noah's tiny body. Emma gasped and recoiled. The shadow didn't match any movement of the baby. It was different, unnatural, fleeting, almost like a ripple in the air. Cooper barked suddenly, loud and urgent, shaking the floorboards beneath his paws. He leapt onto the crib, nudging Noah gently but firmly, pressing his body between the baby and the corner where the shadow had appeared. His growls mixed with whines, a symphony of tension that made Emma's skin crawl. "What is it, Cooper? What's happening?" Emma whispered, pressing her hand to his head. Her eyes flicked back to the monitor. Noah's chest shivered again, an uneven tremor that hadn't been there before. Emma's stomach dropped. "It's him, Noah. Something's wrong inside his body." Tyler's hand hovered over the baby, unsure, hesitant. Maybe we should call someone." Emma didn't answer. Her eyes never left Cooper. She could feel the urgency radiating off him, a silent warning she couldn't ignore. Then it happened. A high-pitched beeping erupted from the baby monitor. Emma froze. It wasn't the monitor. It was the actual alarm from a small digital pulse reader she had recently attached to Noah's ankle, thinking it was just precaution. The readout showed something terrifying. Noah's tiny oxygen levels had begun to drop sharply. The screen flashed red. The numbers plummeted faster than she could comprehend. "Tyler, call 911, Emma screamed, her voice cracking. Cooper immediately sprang into action, circling the crib, barking at every corner, nudging Noah closer to her and then back again. It was as though he was trying to buy them time to keep Noah safe until help arrived. His movements were precise, urgent, protective, a creature who understood the stakes far beyond human comprehension. Tyler grabbed the phone, dialing with shaking fingers. Emma's eyes were glued to Noah, who now looked pale, his small lips tinged blue. Cooper's growls intensified. Emma felt a sharp chill crawl up her spine, as if the temperature drop from the monitor had leaked into the room itself. Seconds stretched into an eternity. Every moment felt like a lifetime. Cooper never left the baby's side, keeping his head low, body shielding, eyes wide and alert. He whimpered occasionally, not in fear, but as if communicating urgency. Finally, the operator came on the line, calm but firm. Tyler explained the situation as best he could, voice shaking. The operator instructed them to keep the baby calm, monitor breathing, and stay on the line until paramedics arrived. Emma hung over Noah, feeling his tiny chest rise and fall in uneven patterns. Cooper nudged her hands away gently but firmly, pressing himself even closer. Emma realized something chilling. If Cooper hadn't been there, guiding, alerting, and blocking, she might not have noticed the subtle but critical signs in time. The house felt impossibly silent, except for the crackle of the baby monitor and Cooper's constant warnings. Emma's thoughts raced. How had a dog, a creature she loved and trusted, detected something so subtle that even machines almost missed it? It was unnerving, almost impossible to explain. Then a sharp crack of static erupted from the monitor, and Emma noticed something else. The shadow from before flickered again, moving near Noah's crib. This time it seemed closer, darker. And then she blinked, trying to focus. It wasn't a shadow at all. It was a subtle flicker of movement in the corner of the camera frame, almost like a tiny, pulsing distortion in the air. Emma gasped, pressing her hand to her mouth. Cooper barked violently, hair standing on end, and lunged to place himself between Noah and the corner, teeth barely bared, not in aggression but in protection. Tyler looked at her, pale. "Em, what is that?" Emma shook her head, too terrified to answer. Cooper whined, packing, nudging Noah, blocking the line between the baby and whatever danger she couldn't see. The alarms from the pulse reader flashed red again, and the oxygen level dipped dangerously low. It was happening again, faster, more violently. Emma's stomach lurched. This was no ordinary threat, no glitch, no coincidence. Cooper's growl intensified, trembling through his massive frame, his eyes fixed on the corner, on the invisible threat, as if trying to hold back a disaster he alone could sense. Paramedics, sirens pierced the night, approaching the house. Tyler moved to meet them, carrying Noah gently, while Emma tried to calm Cooper, stroking his trembling fur. But Cooper wouldn't move away, growling at the shadowed corner, refusing to leave Noah's side. Emma finally understood. Cooper had been trying to warn them, predict them, protect Noah from something that even advanced technology and human senses hadn't yet detected. The paramedics rushed in, taking Noah into their arms and immediately checking his vitals. Emma followed, Cooper at her heels, whining, barking, packing nervously as though ensuring nothing went wrong. Minutes later, the ambulance doors slammed shut. Emma clung to Cooper, chest heaving. She couldn't stop staring at him. He had seen what she hadn't. He had felt the danger before any machine, before any human, and had protected her baby with every ounce of instinct he possessed. As the ambulance's lights disappeared down the street, Emma sank to the porch steps, Cooper curling protectively around her. She stroked his fur, whispering softly, trying to calm the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. Her mind kept returning to the monitor, the flickering shadow, the sudden plummet of oxygen, the trembling, uneven chest movements she had barely noticed. And then she realized something that made her stomach twist. Cooper had been acting this way all week, not because he was just a dog, not because he was protective, but because he had sensed a life-threatening problem that she, Tyler, and even medical equipment might not have noticed in time. Emma shivered, hugging Cooper tightly. You saved him," she whispered. But her relief was tempered by a chilling realization. The danger hadn't fully passed. Whatever Cooper had sensed was still out there, still threatening Noah, still invisible to her eyes. And when she glanced at the dark corner of Noah's empty nursery from the porch, Cooper's low growl echoed in the night. She knew their fight had only just begun. Noah had been admitted to the pediatric emergency unit, the sterile lights casting a cold glow over the bustling hospital. Emma clutched Cooper's leash, packing anxiously outside the ICU doors. The golden retriever sat obediently beside her, ears alert, tail stiff, his head occasionally lifting to watch her face, as if sensing the storm of fear and worry swirling inside her. Tyler hovered beside them, phone clutched in trembling hands, trying to appear calm but failing. The paramedics had briefed them en route, warning that Noah's oxygen levels had been dangerously low and that rapid intervention was critical. Yet the truth, the reason Cooper had been so insistent, so frantic, was still a mystery. Emma's mind replayed every moment from the past week, Cooper blocking her hands, packing, growling at empty corners, the flickering shadows on the baby monitor, the uneven tremors of Noah's chest. She shivered, realizing just how close they had come to disaster. "Mom, Dad," a nurse called softly, beckoning them into a consultation room. "The doctors want to discuss Noah's condition." Emma followed, heart hammering. Cooper padded silently beside her, his golden fur brushing against her legs like a tangible reminder of the nightmarish vigilance he had maintained. Tyler kept a protective arm around her, though she barely noticed his presence. Once seated, the pediatrician Dr. Santos, a woman in her early 40s with sharp, compassionate eyes, sat across from them, her face a mix of concern and urgency. She opened a folder, showing scans and monitors that Emma could barely comprehend. "Emma, Tyler, we found something unusual," Dr. Santos began. "Noah's initial vitals showed that his oxygen levels were dangerously low. That's why the pulse monitor alarmed. Upon running further imaging and tests, we discovered a congenital heart defect, a condition that hadn't been detected at birth." Emma felt her stomach drop. "A heart defect," her voice shook. "But he seemed fine, he's so tiny, I didn't notice anything." "That's the problem," Dr. Santos said gently but firmly. "Sometimes these defects are hidden. The heart may be functioning irregularly, but outward symptoms can be subtle. His oxygen saturation dropping at night, uneven chest movement. These are all signs we might have missed if you hadn't been vigilant, or if Cooper hadn't alerted you." Emma's eyes widened. Cooper nudged her hand with his nose, as if confirming the truth she couldn't yet process. Tears pricked at her eyes. Tyler squeezed her shoulder. "You mean the dog, he knew something was wrong?" Dr. Santos nodded. "Dogs can sometimes detect subtle changes in a child's breathing, heart rhythm, even temperature. It seems Cooper sensed Noah's condition escalating before our monitors could fully register it." Emma's chest tightened. The thought of what could have happened if they hadn't noticed, if Cooper hadn't insisted, made her tremble. She pressed her hands to her face, letting the shock wash over her. Cooper whined softly, leaning against her, offering comfort in his silent, steadfast way. Then Dr. Santos's expression changed. She pulled up another monitor image, her finger tracing a shadowy area near Noah's heart. "This is the critical concern," she said. "Fluid has been accumulating around the heart, putting pressure on the lungs. If we hadn't acted immediately, it could have led to a severe cardiac event. Emma's throat went dry. She swallowed hard, gripping Cooper's leash so tightly her knuckles turned white. Cooper shifted closer to Noah, his massive head resting protectively against the baby's crib side during the scan earlier. The golden retriever had somehow sensed this invisible danger that even the most advanced technology could barely detect. Tyler's voice was quiet but laced with fear. How bad is it? Dr. Santos looked down at the images again. It's serious. The procedure is complex, but it's necessary. We'll need to stabilize Noah before moving forward. He's tiny, just a few weeks old, but if we act carefully, there's a strong chance of recovery. Emma felt her chest tighten further. How long? We're monitoring him closely, but Noah's condition is unpredictable. Any sudden drop in oxygen or heart rhythm could be catastrophic, Dr. Santos said, glancing at the monitor again. He needs round-the-clock attention. The words hit Emma like a punch to the gut. Noah, her tiny, fragile son, was fighting a battle she hadn't even known existed. And Cooper had been guarding him all along, sensing danger beyond human comprehension. Emma sank into her chair, burying her face in her hands. Cooper rested his head on her shoulder, eyes soft but alert, a silent anchor in the chaos. Hours blurred. Emma and Tyler watched through the glass, packing, whispering, hopping. Cooper never left their side, sitting stiffly beside the chair, ears twitching at every beep, every distant sound in the hospital. Nurses came and went, monitors beeped incessantly, and yet the golden retriever remained vigilant, as if he understood the stakes in a way no human could. Then, without warning, one of the monitors beeped an urgent alarm. Emma froze. The nurse rushed over, checking the readings. Noah's oxygen is dropping rapidly, she said, voice tight with urgency. We need to move him immediately. Emma's hand shook. Is he going to be okay? The nurse hesitated, eyes serious. We'll do everything we can, but it's critical to act fast. Cooper stiffened, letting out a low growl. He leapt slightly, pawing at the glass, whining as though urging Emma and Tyler to follow, to stay close, to act. Emma reached through the leash and held him, whispering softly, trying to calm him, but she realized he wasn't afraid of the alarms. He was warning her, guiding her with instinct she could barely understand. The surgical team arrived, moving quickly. Noah was transferred to a specialized incubator, wires and monitors attached in a flurry of motion. Emma's heart pounded so hard she felt dizzy. Cooper pressed close to her, body rigid, eyes never leaving the incubator. He whined softly, a mournful sound that echoed through the otherwise sterile room. Minutes stretched like hours. Every beep, every flutter of the monitors made Emma's stomach knot. Cooper's growl deepened every time there was even a slight dip in readings, his body vibrating with tension. Emma realized something chilling. Cooper had been their first line of defense. He had sensed something life-threatening that even the medical team might have missed if they weren't so vigilant. Then, the moment that made her chest stop, the monitor flickered again, an alarming drop in oxygen. Noah's tiny form twitched under the blanket, and the surgical team reacted instantly, rushing over to stabilize him. Cooper barked sharply, a piercing sound of warning and distress, as if sharing in the panic of the humans around him. Emma's tears flowed freely. She bent to press her cheek against Cooper's head, whispering, "You saw it, didn't you? You knew. You've been protecting him this whole time." Cooper's eyes met hers, steady, unwavering, almost human in understanding. His soft whine vibrated against her cheek, a mixture of reassurance and lingering urgency. Emma realized she was witnessing a rare miracle, the unspoken communication between a mother, a child, and the dog who had sensed danger no one else could detect. Dr. Santos finally stepped back, breathing heavily. Noah is stable for now, but we'll need to run more tests and continue monitoring. The fluid around the heart, it's critical. We caught this in time, but he's not out of danger yet. Emma nodded, voice trembling. Thank God, thank God. She glanced down at Cooper. The golden retriever sat like a sentinel, chest heaving slightly, ears flicking nervously toward the incubator. He had been right all along. He had sensed something invisible, something deadly, and he had acted without hesitation. Emma stroked his head gently, whispering, "We owe you everything." But even as relief washed over her, a small, gnawing fear lingered. The crisis had been averted this time. But what if the danger wasn't over? What if there were more hidden threats? And how much longer could Cooper sense them, protect Noah, before the next wave of danger struck? Emma glanced again at the tiny incubator, her eyes narrowing. Noah's chest rose and fell in uneven patterns, still delicate, still vulnerable, and Cooper's low growl echoed through the quiet hospital room. She realized with a sinking feeling that this was just the beginning. The invisible threat was still out there. And Cooper, brave, vigilant, loyal, was the only one who knew it was coming next. The hours in the ICU stretched like an eternity. Emma sat in a stiff chair, barely noticing the sterile fluorescent lights above, her eyes locked on the incubator where Noah lay, tiny and vulnerable, surrounded by a tangle of monitors, wires, and tubes. Cooper remained close, chest pressed to the side of the incubator, eyes alert, ears twitching, occasionally letting out a soft whine as if to warn them of every subtle fluctuation. Tyler sat beside her, gripping her hand tightly. Neither had slept, and the adrenaline from the night's emergency still pulsed through their veins. Yet, despite exhaustion, neither could look away from the fragile life before them. Cooper's unwavering presence reminded Emma that Noah wasn't alone, and that he hadn't been alone all week. Dr. Santos returned, her expression serious but calm. "Emma, Tyler, we have the complete results of Noah's tests." Emma's stomach twisted. "What did you find?" Dr. Santos took a deep breath, glancing at the monitors beside her. "Noah has a congenital heart defect. It's serious, a condition that affects the structure of his heart, preventing proper circulation and causing fluid buildup around the lungs. This explains the oxygen drops, the irregular chest movements, and the sudden instability you saw at home." Emma's fingers clutched Cooper's fur tightly, her tears falling unchecked. "But how did we not know? He seemed healthy, he was so perfect." "That's the insidious part," Dr. Santos said. "These defects can sometimes remain undetected at birth, especially in newborns who appear outwardly normal. Noah's body compensated for a while, but the fluid buildup was increasing rapidly, which is why Cooper's behavior was so alarmingly accurate. Dogs can sometimes detect subtle physiological changes in humans, heart rate, oxygen saturation, breathing patterns, that aren't immediately obvious to people." Emma looked at Cooper, whose head rested against the incubator, eyes wide and steady. Her chest constricted. He had been trying to tell them the entire time. He had sensed danger invisible to human eyes, something life-threatening hiding inside her baby. Tyler's voice was quiet, filled with awe. "So, the dog, he knew something was wrong before we did." Dr. Santos nodded. "Yes, Cooper likely detected the irregularities before any machine or human could. His instincts bought you precious time." Emma bent forward, pressing her forehead to Cooper's soft fur. "You saved him," she whispered, voice trembling. Cooper responded with a soft whine, tail thumping lightly against the floor. The bond between them, a quiet understanding, was almost overwhelming. But there was no time to linger. Noah's oxygen readings began to fluctuate again, dipping dangerously low. Nurses rushed to adjust monitors, check lines, and stabilize him. Cooper let out a low, tense growl, his body stiff and trembling. Emma felt a surge of panic. The danger was far from over. Dr. Santos pointed to the monitor. "If we delay, the pressure around the heart could cause serious complications, potentially fatal. We need to perform a procedure immediately to drain the fluid and stabilize him. Afterwards, we'll evaluate surgical options for the defect itself." Emma's hands shook as she tried to absorb the gravity of the situation. Is he going to survive this? Dr. Santos hesitated. It's critical and will do everything possible. He's a tiny newborn, which increases the risk, but early intervention gives him a strong chance. Timing is everything. Emma's mind raced. She thought back to Cooper, the urgency, the whining, the growls. The scratches on the baby monitor, the shadows Emma had thought she imagined, the subtle tremor in Noah's chest. Every instinct, every signal had been real. Every action had mattered. And now they were counting on it again. The ICU doors opened with a quiet swoosh as the surgical team arrived. Nurses and doctors moved with precision, their voices calm but purposeful. Emma's throat tightened as she watched them prepare Noah, placing him in a specialized incubator, checking IV lines, adjusting monitors. Cooper stiffened, letting out a low bark, packing in a small circle beside Emma. She knelt to soothe him, pressing her hand to his side. I know, it's scary," she whispered. Cooper's eyes never left Noah, body tense, as if bracing for what was to come. Minutes dragged like hours. Every beep, every flicker on the monitors sent Emma's heart racing. The room seemed charged with tension, a silent acknowledgement of how fragile life could be. Cooper pressed closer, offering silent support, a tether to reality and hope. Then suddenly the alarm blared. Noah's oxygen dropped sharply, a warning tone that sliced through the already heavy air. Nurses rushed to his side, adjusting lines, calling out vitals. Emma gasped, clutching Cooper, whose growl vibrated through the room. He pawed at the incubator, nudging the baby toward safety, a living guardian reacting faster than anyone in the room could. Emma felt tears stream down her face. Cooper had been right all along. He had known, had sensed the danger that even monitors could only partially detect. Without him, Noah might not have survived the night. The procedure began in earnest. Small, delicate instruments were used to drain the fluid from around Noah's heart. Every movement was precise, every second critical. Emma's eyes were glued to Cooper, who remained alert, ears twitching, growls punctuating the tense silence whenever a beep or change in vitals occurred. Hours passed. Sweat beaded on Emma's forehead, her hands cramped from gripping Cooper's fur, her throat dry from unrelenting worry. Tyler whispered reassurances, but neither could find comfort in words. The tension was unbearable, each passing moment a test of endurance, hope, and faith. Finally, the lead nurse spoke, her voice soft but firm. The fluid has been successfully drained. Noah's oxygen levels are stabilizing. He's still fragile, but he's responding well. Emma's knees nearly buckled. She clutched Cooper tightly, sobbing. You saved him, she whispered again, her lips brushing his golden fur. Cooper leaned into her embrace, letting out a small, almost exhausted whine, eyes softening but still alert. Dr. Santos stepped forward, her expression a mixture of relief and caution. We've bought precious time. Noah still needs monitoring and will consult on surgery for the defect, but right now, he's alive, stable, and responding to treatment. Emma's chest heaved with relief, gratitude, and awe. She glanced at Cooper, whose unwavering presence had guided them through the unthinkable. Every growl, every nudge, every protective gesture had been real, deliberate, and life-saving. But even as relief washed over her, a shadow of unease lingered. The crisis had been averted this time, but Noah was still fragile. Cooper's vigilance reminded her that danger could return, subtle, invisible, deadly. She bent down, pressing her forehead to Cooper again. Thank you, she whispered, her voice trembling. You were right all along. Cooper's tail thumped softly, his massive head resting against her shoulder. Emma realized with an ache in her chest that this was a bond unlike any other, a silent understanding between a mother, her child, and a dog who had sensed life and death in ways humans could barely comprehend. And then Dr. Santos added a chilling note, her voice low. We'll need to keep monitoring him closely. Any sudden change could be critical. Even small fluctuations can be dangerous for a newborn with this condition. Emma's stomach twisted. The danger wasn't over, not by a long shot. Cooper whined softly, his golden eyes meeting hers with unspoken warning. Emma understood immediately. He hadn't just been guarding Noah from external threats. He had been protecting him from something far more insidious, something inside. The adrenaline, the fear, the relief, they all collided inside her. And she knew without doubt that every moment forward would be tense, fragile, and uncertain. Because life with Noah and life with Cooper was now a delicate balance between hope and peril. And Emma had learned one truth she would never forget. Cooper wasn't just a dog. He was Noah's guardian, and the next danger, whatever it might be, was already approaching. The hospital had grown quiet, save for the occasional beep of monitors and the distant rolling of carts down the sterile hallways. Emma remained at Noah's side. Cooper pressed close, his golden head resting against the incubator as if forming a shield no one could breach. Tyler sat opposite, exhausted, eyes heavy but restless, holding Emma's hand in a grip that mirrored her own unrelenting tension. Noah slept, fragile and small, yet his tiny chest rose and fell unevenly, reminding Emma of the fragile balance between life and the invisible dangers that surrounded them. She could almost see Cooper calculating, assessing every flicker, every subtle change, guarding her child with a vigilance that seemed superhuman. For hours, the baby had stabilized. Dr. Santos had explained that the initial procedure to drain the fluid was only a temporary measure. Noah's congenital heart defect still posed a grave threat. Emma understood this rationally, yet she couldn't shake the gnawing fear that something else might be silently worsening, something that even the monitors might not catch in time. Cooper, ever perceptive, seemed to sense the tension. He shifted slightly, raising his head and turning his gaze toward the far corner of the room. Emma followed his eyes. There was nothing there, nothing visible, but Cooper's ears twitched, his body stiffened, his growl, a low, vibrating rumble, resonated in the air like a warning pulse. Emma's heart lurched. "Not again," she whispered, voice trembling. "Please, Cooper, what is it?" Cooper's eyes never left the corner. His lips lifted slightly in a protective snarl, not aggressive, not directed at Emma or Tyler, but at something invisible. Emma swallowed hard, pressing her hand to his massive head. He whined softly, a sound filled with both urgency and anxiety, a desperate plea she couldn't ignore. Tyler glanced at her, eyes wide. He's not just being paranoid, is he?" Emma shook her head. "No, he's seeing something. He's warning us." Suddenly, one of the monitors beeped, a subtle, high-pitched tone that indicated a minor fluctuation. Emma's eyes darted to Noah's tiny chest. There it was, a small, uneven twitch in his breathing pattern, almost imperceptible but unmistakable to her trained eye. Cooper's growl deepened, his massive body tense, ready to act at a moment's notice. Emma felt her stomach twist. "It's happening again," she whispered. The nursing staff arrived moments later, responding to the alarm. One nurse checked the monitors and adjusted the IV, but the fluctuation persisted. Emma noticed a faint pallor on Noah's face, his lips tinged slightly blue. Her pulse raced. Cooper's growl shifted into a bark, a sharp, urgent sound that made everyone in the room freeze. "What is it, boy?" Emma whispered, reaching for Cooper's head. Cooper barked again, packing in tight circles around the incubator, nudging Noah gently with his nose as if to remind the humans that he had sensed the subtle threat first. Emma realized, with a chilling clarity, that Cooper was not just alerting them to visible danger. He was detecting internal, hidden danger, something that even high-tech monitors struggled to catch. Dr. Santos, alerted by the sudden spike in alarms, rushed back into the room. She studied Noah's vitals carefully, her brow furrowed. "His oxygen is dropping slightly, but not dangerously, yet," she said, voice tense. "We'll need to watch him closely, but I agree with the observation. There's something subtle here that isn't registering fully on the monitors." Emma's throat went dry. "It's Cooper, he knows," she said quietly, pointing toward the dog. "He's been warning us this entire time. He sees things we can't." Dr. Santos glanced at Cooper, then back at Emma. Dogs can indeed detect physiological changes humans can't. He may be sensing early signs of distress, changes in breathing patterns, microfluctuations in oxygen, or even shifts in the baby's pulse that aren't easily measurable. He might have just prevented a serious incident. Emma felt a lump in her throat. So, he's been saving him this whole time. Cooper let out a soft whine, his eyes meeting hers, almost knowingly, as if acknowledging her realization. Emma bent down, pressing her cheek to his fur, tears streaming silently. The connection between them was unspoken yet profound. Cooper had been their silent guardian, the invisible alarm system that had caught danger long before humans could. For the next few hours, the room settled into tense vigilance. Nurses monitored Noah, Dr. Santos checked readings, and Emma watched every tiny breath, every twitch. Cooper never left the incubator's side, his head resting gently on Noah's chest, ears twitching, eyes scanning, growls punctuating even the slightest fluctuations. Then, in the quiet of the late night, the real test came. Noah's oxygen saturation began to drop again, just slightly, almost imperceptibly, but enough to trigger a subtle alarm. Cooper stiffened instantly, tail rigid, ears pinned forward. He barked sharply, packing, nudging the incubator with urgency. Emma's hands trembled as she followed his gaze, heart hammering in her chest. This time she could see it clearly. Noah's chest was uneven, a subtle tremor running through his small body, faster than before. Cooper's growls deepened, vibrating through the room like a warning drumbeat. Emma realized, with a pang of fear, that the dog had been detecting these microevents all along, tiny irregularities that humans might miss until it was too late. His instincts were flawless, and the stakes were life and death. The nurses acted swiftly, adjusting oxygen flow, checking IVs, and monitoring vitals. Dr. Santos moved with precision, her eyes sharp, hands steady. Cooper barked again, packing and circling, never leaving Noah's side. His presence seemed to amplify the urgency, to remind everyone that even small, subtle shifts could become critical if ignored. Emma pressed her hand to his massive head. "You've been right this whole time," she whispered, tears spilling. "All week, all along you were saving him." Cooper's ears twitched at her voice, but his eyes never left Noah. It was as if he understood that this was not the time for celebration, only vigilance. Hours passed, tension lingering like a thick fog. Noah's vitals stabilized, monitors showing slight fluctuations but nothing life-threatening. Cooper finally relaxed marginally, resting his head against the incubator, though his eyes remained sharp, ever watchful. Emma leaned back, exhausted, but the adrenaline still coursed through her veins. She realized something profound. Cooper was more than a dog. He was an instinctive guardian, a sentinel capable of perceiving danger beyond human comprehension. He had not only saved Noah's life but had created a buffer of time and warning that no technology could match. But the lingering fear gnawed at her. The heart defect was still there. Noah's body remained fragile, and Cooper, though vigilant and tireless, could only warn, not cure. Emma pressed her cheek to Cooper's head again. "You're amazing," she whispered. "You've been protecting him every second." The golden retriever let out a soft, almost exhausted whine, his body sagging slightly in relief but never fully relaxed. Emma knew that whatever threat had loomed over Noah before, the silent, invisible danger, was not gone. And as she looked at Cooper's watchful eyes, she realized the truth. They had survived the first battle. But the war for Noah's life was far from over. And Cooper, their guardian, their sentinel, would be the only one ready for what came next. The next morning, sunlight filtered weakly through the hospital blinds, painting pale stripes across the ICU floor. Emma had not slept. She had barely eaten. Her eyes were glued to Noah, tiny and fragile in the incubator, his chest rising and falling in a delicate rhythm that seemed to hang in the balance with every heartbeat. Cooper sat at her side, golden fur gleaming faintly in the light, eyes unwavering, ears pricked, every muscle taut with anticipation. Tyler slouched in the chair across from her, phone long forgotten in his hand. Neither parent had spoken more than a few words all night. The air was thick with tension, the kind that clung to skin and hair, as though the room itself understood the fragility of life inside that small incubator. For the past 12 hours, Noah had stabilized. Dr. Santos and the nurses had been cautiously optimistic, adjusting oxygen levels and monitoring vitals continuously. Yet Cooper remained alert, his posture rigid, as though sensing a threat that no human could perceive. Emma whispered almost to herself, "You know something's coming, don't you, boy?" Cooper's ears twitched, and he let out a low, resonant growl, circling the incubator once, then settling back, his head resting gently on the glass wall. Hours passed in a tense, quiet vigil. Emma stared at every subtle twitch of Noah's chest, every flutter of his tiny eyelids, every soft sound of his breathing. Cooper never left, never wavered, and she realized with awe and fear that the dog had become a living early warning system, a bridge between human perception and the invisible dangers threatening her child. Then, without warning, the monitors began to beep, a slow, rhythmic alarm, the kind that makes the skin crawl. Emma's chest tightened instantly. She leaned forward, heart hammering. Noah's oxygen saturation had dropped, not drastically, but enough to trigger a warning. Cooper stiffened, letting out a sharp bark, packing frantically. He nudged the incubator, circling, growling low, his eyes fixed on something unseen in the corner of the room. Emma followed his gaze but saw nothing. "Not again," she whispered, pressing her hands to her face. Her heart raced. "Cooper, please." Dr. Santos and the nurses rushed in immediately. The alarms on the monitors intensified as they adjusted lines, checked the incubator, and reassessed Noah's vitals. Emma noticed a faint pallor spreading across his tiny face, lips tinged blue. Her throat went dry. Cooper barked again, a sharp, urgent sound that seemed to slice through the chaos. He circled faster, pressing his massive body between Noah and the direction of the invisible threat. Emma reached out, holding his head, her fingers trembling. "It's okay, boy, you're protecting him." The head nurse, noticing Cooper's unusual behavior, exchanged a glance with Dr. Santos. "This dog, he's reacting to something," she murmured. "I've never seen a pet respond like this in a hospital before." Dr. Santos nodded, her expression grim. Dogs can sense physiological changes humans can't detect, tiny shifts in breathing, pulse, even electrical activity in the heart. Cooper might be warning us of something subtle but critical. Pay attention. Emma's pulse quickened. She realized then that Cooper's instincts had been guiding them all along, saving Noah from danger they couldn't even see. Every growl, every nudge, every packing step had been deliberate, measured, protective. Suddenly, the alarm escalated. Noah's oxygen saturation plummeted more rapidly. Nurses shouted instructions, adjusting flow and checking lines. Dr. Santos leaned over the incubator, her eyes narrowing in concentration. Cooper growled louder, stepping closer to the incubator, almost as if to brace Noah's tiny body, to shield him from the unseen peril. His tail stiffened, and he let out a deep, urgent bark that made Emma jump. The golden retriever's entire body vibrated with tension. Emma whispered, "You see it, don't you? You know something happening." Her tears spilled freely. Cooper nudged her hand gently, wine trembling through his chest, as if to say, "Yes, pay attention, act now." The nurses acted with precision, but Noah's vitals remained unstable. Dr. Santos realized what was happening. "We need to perform emergency intervention immediately. The fluid may be compressing the heart again. If we wait even a minute, it could become life-threatening." Emma's breath caught in her throat. Again, he just stabilized. Dr. Santos's expression was stern. "It's the nature of the defect. Tiny bobbies can deteriorate quickly, but we caught it early, thanks to you noticing and Cooper's unusual behavior." Emma looked down at the dog. Cooper's gaze met hers, steady, intense, almost human in its clarity. She pressed her hands against his fur. "You're amazing," she whispered. "You've been saving him again." The team prepared Noah for another procedure, the tension in the room electric. Cooper moved with them, staying at the incubator's side, growling softly whenever a hand moved near Noah, never aggressive, only protective, a living guardian. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours. Emma's heart pounded. She whispered, "Please, Cooper, keep him safe, please." Then the unthinkable happened. Noah's monitor alarmed again, flashing red as oxygen saturation dropped precipitously. Nurses rushed. Dr. Santos leaned over and Emma felt herself freeze. Her eyes darted to Cooper, who sprang into action, nudging Noah, barking fiercely, circling the incubator, his growls escalating into urgent, almost desperate howls. Emma's hands shook as she held him, tears streaming. "He's warning us, he knows." Dr. Santos looked at Cooper, then back at the monitors. "He's right, something is happening faster than our equipment can detect. This is critical." The team worked frantically. Cooper never left Noah's side, his body a protective shield. Emma realized something terrifying and awe-inspiring at the same time. Cooper wasn't just sensing the problem. He was guiding their attention, amplifying their response, buying precious seconds that could mean life or death. Noah's tiny body twitched. Cooper barked, placing himself between Noah and the unseen danger, pressing gently but firmly against the baby. Emma felt the raw intensity of the moment, the gravity, the fear, the stakes, and she sobbed silently. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the oxygen stabilized. The monitors beeped steadily, showing safe levels. Nurses and Dr. Santos exhaled in relief. Noah's chest rose and fell evenly, the tiny tremor finally dissipated. Emma collapsed into her chair, gripping Cooper's fur, her tears soaking his golden coat. "You did it again," she whispered. "You saved him." Cooper rested his massive head on her shoulder, eyes softening but still alert, as though he knew the battle was won. But the war was not over. Dr. Santos approached, exhausted but relieved. "Noah is stable for now. This congenital defect will require surgery eventually, but thanks to Cooper, we avoided a life-threatening event today. He's extraordinary." Emma's chest swelled with a mixture of relief, gratitude, and awe. Cooper, with his unwavering instincts, had been their sentinel, seeing danger invisible to human eyes and alerting them in time. She realized that her baby's survival had depended not just on doctors and monitors, but on a loyal, courageous dog who refused to look away. Tyler leaned over, whispering, "We owe him everything." Emma nodded, hugging Cooper tightly. "We do," she said. Her voice broke, but her eyes burned with recognition of the truth. Cooper wasn't just a pet. He was Noah's guardian, a silent, fearless protector who had sensed life and death in ways no one else could. Yet even in relief, a quiet fear lingered. Cooper's vigilance reminded her that Noah's battle wasn't over. The defect remained. The invisible threats remained. And for all their gratitude, Emma knew that every heartbeat forward would still be shadowed by danger, subtle, relentless, and unseen. As she pressed her forehead to Cooper's golden fur, she understood the bond between them, the unspoken alliance forged in fear, love, and instinct. The war had been fought and won for now. But the next threat was already looming, invisible and waiting. And Cooper would be ready. The hospital room was bathed in the soft glow of evening lights, shadows stretching long across the floor. Emma sat in the chair beside Noah's incubator, exhaustion weighing her down like a physical force. Her eyes were fixed on her son, fragile and tiny, yet resilient, a fighter. Cooper rested at her feet, golden head on his paws, ears alert, tail flicking occasionally. He had been their guardian for days now, never leaving, never faltering. Tyler leaned against the wall, eyes heavy, jaw tense. The weight of the week pressed on all of them. Every alarm, every nurse's call, every subtle twitch in Noah's chest had become a test of endurance, fear, and hope. And Cooper had been at the center of it all, the silent sentinel who had sensed every threat before anyone else. Dr. Santos arrived, her expression calm but serious. "Emma, Tyler, the next step is critical," she said, her voice carrying the gravity of life and death. "Noah's congenital heart defect requires surgical intervention to correct the structural issue. We've stabilized him as much as possible, but this is the permanent solution. Timing and precision are everything." Emma nodded, swallowing hard, clutching Cooper's head gently. "We understand, we just want him safe." Cooper stirred at her touch, shifting closer, as if understanding her words, his eyes scanning the room, alert, protective, almost human in his intensity. Emma pressed a kiss to his head. "You've already saved him so many times," she whispered. "This is the big one. Are you ready to help him through it?" The dog let out a soft whine, tail thumping, a rhythm of empathy and understanding. Emma's chest tightened. Cooper had seen danger invisible to humans. He had sensed life-threatening events before monitors and machines could detect them. And now he seemed to know this was the most critical moment yet. Minutes later, the surgical team arrived. Nurses moved swiftly, preparing Noah for transport to the operating room. Emma felt tears sting her eyes as she watched her tiny son surrounded by medical equipment, fragile and vulnerable. Cooper let out a low growl, stepping closer, nudging Emma as though to remind her, "Stay vigilant, stay strong." As the team wheeled Noah away, Cooper's eyes followed every movement. He didn't leave the room until the incubator doors closed, his massive frame tense, tail stiff. Emma knelt beside him, pressing her face to his fur. "Please watch over him," she whispered. Cooper rested his head against her shoulder, warm and steady, a silent promise that he would. In the operating room, the atmosphere was tense. Dr. Santos and her team worked with precision, their eyes sharp, hands steady. Every movement mattered, every second counted. Emma and Tyler waited in a small observation room, hands entwined, hearts hammering in sync. Cooper lay beside them, ears perked, eyes unblinking, his body taut with anticipation. Hours passed. The world outside the hospital faded into insignificance. Every beep from the monitors, every distant footstep in the hall seemed magnified in Emma's mind. She whispered prayers, clutched Cooper's fur, and tried to hold herself together. The dog's presence was grounding, his calm yet vigilant energy radiating reassurance. Then a subtle shift. Cooper lifted his head, ears twitching, tail flicking. He let out a low, warning growl, packing in a small circle. Emma followed his gaze, tension rising. Tyler leaned over her shoulder. "What is it, boy?" he murmured. Emma shook her head, eyes wide. "I don't know, but he senses something." Cooper barked sharply, then nudged her hand, urging her to stand. Emma realized the instinct was not fear, it was focus. The dog's body vibrated with energy, a silent alarm of alertness. Moments later, a nurse appeared in the observation room doorway. "The surgery team wants to speak with you," she said gently. Emma and Tyler exchanged a glance, Cooper rising to follow, sensing the urgency. Dr. Santos stepped forward, her face calm but firm. "The surgery was successful," she announced. "Noah's heart has been repaired. The fluid has been drained and his oxygen levels are stable. He's still fragile, but he's out of immediate danger. You should be able to see him soon." Emma's breath caught in her throat. Tears blurred her vision. Cooper whined softly, tail wagging in a restrained, careful manner. Emma knelt, pressing her face to his head. "You did it," she whispered. "You saved him again." Cooper's warm, steady presence radiated a quiet pride, a silent acknowledgement of their shared struggle. The nurses wheeled Noah back into the ICU, tiny and fragile, his chest rising and falling evenly for the first time in days. Emma and Tyler followed closely, Cooper beside them, his eyes never leaving the incubator. As they approached, Noah's small fingers twitched. Emma reached out gently, tears streaming, touching his tiny hand. "Hi, baby," she whispered. "We're here, you're safe now." Cooper leaned closer, placing his massive head against Noah's blanket, eyes scanning the baby's face with protective intensity. Emma realized something profound. Cooper had not only been a guardian, he had been a bridge sensing invisible danger, translating instinct into survival. Dr. Santos approached, smiling faintly. "This dog, he's remarkable. I've never seen anything like it. He may have saved Noah multiple times before we even had a chance to act." Emma hugged Cooper tightly, sobbing softly. Yes, he did. Every time, every single time." Cooper let out a soft, contented whine, resting his head against her shoulder, calm yet vigilant. The rest of the night passed in quiet relief. Noah slept peacefully, monitored closely, his tiny body stabilizing after days of life-threatening episodes. Cooper curled beside the incubator, alert but relaxed for the first time, his presence a constant, reassuring heartbeat in the room. Emma watched him, feeling a swell of gratitude, awe, and love. She realized that their lives had changed forever. Cooper had shown them that courage and instinct could be just as vital as medicine, that love could manifest not only in human hearts, but in the unwavering devotion of a loyal companion. As dawn broke the next morning, painting the room in golden light, Noah stirred, tiny eyes opening for the first time in a while. Cooper's ears perked instantly, and he leaned forward, nuzzling the baby gently. Emma and Tyler knelt beside him, tears of joy streaming down their faces. Emma whispered, voice choked with emotion, "He's okay, we made it." Cooper responded with a soft, happy whine, tail wagging gently, eyes gleaming with the quiet pride of a guardian who had fulfilled his duty. Tyler brushed a hand over Emma's hair, whispering, "We'll never forget this. None of us will." Emma looked down at Cooper, who rested his head on Noah's blanket, chest rising and falling with the tiny baby, as if sharing the rhythm of life itself. "You are family," she whispered. "You saved our son. You're our hero." Cooper let out a gentle sigh, settling into a comfortable, watchful position. Emma realized the truth in that moment. He had done more than protect them. He had given them time, hope, and life itself. As the morning sun poured into the room, Noah safe and stable, Emma pressed her cheek to Cooper's golden fur, feeling the warmth, the loyalty, and the unspoken courage that had carried them through the most terrifying days of their lives. And for the first time in days, she allowed herself to breathe. They had survived the storm. And Cooper, the steadfast guardian, had been there every heartbeat of the way. The baby was safe. The danger was gone, at least for now. And the bond between mother, child, and dog was stronger than life itself.